quotations, examples, and other details or information from the text that support an inference. When you make an inference, you should cite or refer to text evidence to support it.
Two pieces of text evidence support the inference that pythons are extra added trouble for the Everglades. Drag and drop the two pieces of text evidence into the empty boxes.
Alright, so let's read it first.
The Burmese python is native to Southeast Asia. The Everglades are very similar to the python's native habitat. In North America, however, the Burmese python is an invasive species, an animal or plant that enters and disturbs a new environment. Just as the zebra mussel, first brought into the United States on ships from Europe, is now common in the Great Lakes, the Burmese python has established itself in the Everglades. Since the arrival of pythons in the park, there has been a sharp drop in sightings of rabbits, raccoons, bobcats, and other animals. How sharp? Populations of some native animals have declined by more than 99%. Animals that don't belong in a particular environment can cause problems there.
So obviously, if an animal does not belong in the environment we stick it in, obviously that animal can cause some kind of problem. That should be something that you just know. If you put anybody, right, a person, somewhere that they don't belong to, potentially it can cause problems. Because it makes it uncomfortable. Animals could be worse. And then an inference.
Pythons are extra added trouble for the native wildlife in the Everglades.
So we're kind of going backwards now. We got the background knowledge. We got their actual inference that pythons are extra added trouble for native wildlife in the Everglades. We need to find the two pieces of evidence that support that pythons are extra added trouble for native wildlife. Let's look at each one. The first one, the Burmese python is native to Southeast Asia?
Nope.
No? I agree. Basically, if we hit one that you think works, raise your hand. The Everglades are very similar to the python's native habitat. Good. No hands. I should see any hands. In North America, however, the Burmese python is an invasive species. It enters a new environment. You guys have too long today already. Thank you, girls. Thank you, sir. You have too. In North America, however, the Burmese python is an invasive species. It enters a new environment and damages the animals and plants already there. Now, let's see one hand on that one. All right, well, maybe we'll go back to that one. Just as the zebra mussel, first remember, we're trying to find that pythons add extra trouble to native wildlife. I'm trying to think of things. Only so nobody's raised their hand besides Aquarius on one. You guys are telling me that it's both of these. Okay, let's go back then and look at the last one. In North America, however, the Burmese python is an invasive species. It enters a new environment and damages the animals and plants already there. Thank you. Was that absolutely, thank you, Aquarius, that absolutely supports that pythons are extra added trouble?
Absolutely. This says exactly how the pythons affect the Everglades, and it's not pretty.
So now we have two left to choose from. We didn't write it. Just as the zebra mussel first brought to the United States on ships from Europe, it is now common in the Great Lakes. The Burmese python has established itself in the Everglades. Let's look at the next one before we make a decision. Since the arrival of the python in the park, there's been a sharp drop in sightings of rabbits, raccoons, bobcats, and other mammals. How sharp? Populations of some native animals have declined by more than 99%. Good, very good.
Great. A 99% decline in population certainly is big trouble.
Whose book is this? You guys, I asked you yesterday to write your names on this, and now I'm trying to split grade, and there's no names on this book. Whose book has the stickers on it?
That's mine.
Should take points off of everyone's book because you doesn't have a name on it. Whose book is this one? College rule up front, they started writing in blue pen, the table of contents stuff.
Those pieces of evidence were right there in the pamphlet, Dad, word for word.
Right. They were explicit details, information that is directly stated in the text.
Now I'm going to crawl through the rest of this pamphlet.
Yikes! You didn't really say crawl.
I didn't mean it. It was an accident. I meant slither. But I am going to keep reading. A new home for pythons. How are the Everglades like pythons' native habitat in Southeast Asia? Both areas have a warm climate, thick vegetation, and plenty of water. Because their new environment is so similar to their native habitat, the Everglades have everything pythons need: the right climate, thick vegetation, and plenty of water. This is also the right environment for alligators, the park's other top predator. Park officials have found more than 1,000 Burmese pythons in and around the park. Some of these were captured and some were killed by cars or other vehicles. Park officials have also found the remains of pythons that were eaten by alligators. But that number of dead pythons is nothing compared to what park officials are not finding: the tens of thousands of pythons that scientists believe are still alive and well in the Everglades. This place is a python paradise.
What about the alligators?
Oh, that sounds like trouble in paradise.
The text says alligators are a top predator in the park, and I know a thing or two about alligators. I think if there were a fight between an alligator and a python, the alligator would always come out on top. The text even says that park officials have found pythons that were eaten by alligators. So I'm going to infer that in the Everglades, alligators probably keep the python population in check.
In check? Are you sure?
I think I've got the text evidence and background knowledge to back that inference up.
Background knowledge?
Background knowledge, what you already know or understand.
Okay, Dad, so what background knowledge is that inference based on?
Let's look. Can I help out? Click the question mark and choose the best background knowledge.
Alright, so now we know our evidence and we know our inference. Now we're trying to figure out the background knowledge.
Alligators are a top predator in the park.
So that is a fact.
Park officials have also found the remains of pythons that were eaten by alligators.
That is also a fact. And then their inference is that
In the Everglades, alligators probably keep the python population in check.
here are our options for background knowledge. Look at each one.
Alligators and pythons are both reptiles. Alligators in the wild prey on some small reptiles.
Patrick made a point. It's true. It is absolutely true. But we want to think about what background knowledge would help us come to the conclusion that in the Everglades, the alligators probably keep the python population in check. So that they keep them in control. So would alligators and pythons are both reptiles? Would that really explain how the alligator control? No, it's a fact.
Alligators in the wild prey on some small reptiles.
Okay, so I see some hands, so that is a definite one.
Alligators are fierce hunters.
I think that one.
Alligators can grow to be very large.
Third one or the second one?
Second or the third one? Okay, so everyone make a decision, second or third one. Again, look at your inference. In the Everglades, alligators probably keep the python in check. So how many think is the second one? All right, let's give it a shot.
My dad knows this can happen, but this doesn't necessarily suggest that alligators prey on pythons or other large reptiles.
That got it wrong.
Try again.
So we'll go for the third then?
Yeah, they got it wrong.
That's right. I already know that alligators are fierce hunters. So I'm inferring that in the Everglades, they'll hunt pythons and keep the population in check.
Even with alligators around, pythons seem to be doing pretty well here. How does that affect other animals?
More crawling through the text to find out, Luna?
Aha, Daddy.